Previously on Maplestory the novel, Sacred Tears. Adelia settled into her life as a mother while Maxus returned to his work as one of the lead researchers within Margata.
Carl here is the one that thinks the boy should be considered.
However, I believe that his obsession with researching whatever has his attention at this moment is bordering on the outrageous.
And now the continuation of Episode 1, Part 3. When the day came, the votes appointed Dane as Master Alchemist, but his work to find what had made the world as unbalanced as it had become gripped his attention more. When the results of the town were shown to him, he blatantly refused.
Dane, why don't you take this opportunity? It would suit you well,
Adelia urged, as Dane brushed back his hair, which had become quite long. Adelia, there are things in this world that you or anyone here in Margata wouldn't understand, and I mean that with no offense in the strongest way possible. This world is warped, and being the leader of Margata would only hinder me in finding why. Maxus narrowed his eyes and tilted his head slightly. New and challenging things to understand always interested him, even if he didn't understand them in the first place.
What do you mean, warped?
Dane rested his head on 3 fingers and looked up at Maxus from under his silver locks. It's not something that can be solved by simply applying science to it, Maxus. This goes beyond simple transmutations, mathematic equations, and algorithms. Darkness has saturated the world and is only becoming worse. I am going to find a way to stop it, Dane stated. Maxus' interest deepened. He had to know what it was that his son had stumbled upon. This is something that I don't think you would be able to help me with, Maxus. This is a path that leads to some very dark places, Dane stated, pulling a book from his sleeve and setting it on the table. This is a journal of an ancient mage I found in the Knowledge Depository. In it, he chronicles his travels to the study of all magic, alchemy, and history, among other things. During one of his outings, he came upon what some may call the truest of all evils. It has no form, yet it fills the world. It has no substance, yet it taints even the purest of hearts. It has no will, yet all who see it succumb to it. Dane opened the book to the page that was wholly covered with black ink. This mage sought a way to balance this darkness and found that it must be tempered with what he called the ultimate light. Maxus came over to the book and looked over the previous pages, trying to understand what it was that he saw in the scrawled notes.
If this is indeed so terrible, then why are you seriously pursuing this? And what would it be doing in the Knowledge Depository?
Maxus asked. There was always a way for science to explain something, but this, as Dane said, was something beyond mere science. Dane chuckled under his breath and closed the book, covering his eyes with his hand. I asked the same thing of the lead librarian, but they could find no record of someone turning in the journal. When I inquired about even taking the journal, all that she requested was that it be copied and brought back as another addition to the depository. Adelia read the contents of the journal, flipping through pages and reading excerpts randomly.
How did you find it? If something like this was in the depository, then perhaps someone is trying to hide it.
If that were the case, then I believe such a journal would have been much better hidden. It fell from a shelf near where I was gathering tomes. Adelia kept flipping through the pages, trying to understand what it was she read before closing it and handing it back to Dane.
Just from the little I did read, this darkness sounds as if it could be dangerous. Please, be careful.
I am taking caution in reading through the journal thoroughly as I proceed, Adelia. I do not plan to fail where this mage did. Maxus became even more intrigued. Perhaps these concepts could be applied to alchemy to make them more powerful.
What is this darkness the mage speaks of?
Maxus asked. Dane lowered his brow, looking away and pondering the question sincerely. I don't know, but it is something that I intend to discover. With the permission of the leaders, I would like to start my research here in Margata, specifically with Dr. Long's experiments on human thought transfer. Maxus looked to Adelia, sighing heavily. Where his son's research would take him, only time would tell. But as the leaders of the great city had made it clear, questions left unanswered became possibilities undiscovered.
I will talk to them. In the meantime, I would like you to come and tell the people of the city yourself of your refusal,
Maxus urged. Dane chuckled under his breath. looking to Adelia as he stood and came out of his room.
Wherever this road you are deciding to take goes, just know that you have a home here,
Adelia said, placing a hand on his shoulder. I will keep that in mind, Adelia, Dane smiled, walking through the front door, standing before the throng that had gathered to hear his reply. Good people of Margata, I must decline your vote.
When your fires all die out, all you know just turns to ash, and your life goes slipping, spinning into doubt. Sunshine trapped inside your heart, cold and lost and in the dark. Looking back on all this, nobody was there. Nothing left to lose, gotta find the you.